Right, so welcome to a video that I'm doing on stamp collecting. Now, hopefully this is going to be the first of many. Obviously, depends how much interest there is in it. If nobody watches it after 3 months, then obviously I probably won't do another one. But so I thought, what do I do? What do I do to kick off what might be the first in a series on stamp collecting? Well, I thought first of all I'll just explain. Because, I mean, stamp collecting is a massive hobby and it encompasses an awful lot of things and obviously multiple countries as well. So I thought I'll just explain first what it is that I actually collect. First of all, I collect presentation packs. I collect the United Kingdom presentation packs as issued by the Royal Mail, and that obviously goes from 1964. Well, technically not 1964, but I'm not going to get into the technicalities. But effectively, it goes from 1964 until now. They still do them. They still release presentation packs all the time. So I collect them. But also, in addition to that, I collect British stamps that weren't in presentation packs. So anything that wasn't included in a presentation pack. So something like the Queen Mother stamp or something like that didn't get its own presentation pack but was released by Royal Mail anyway. So stuff like that. I collect. So basically, by the time I'm finished, hopefully, although likely not because some of these are very expensive, I will have a set that runs from 1840, the penny black, right the way to, well, today, now, whatever, however you want to call it. So that's basically what I collect. Now, at some point, I may well do a little bit where I show off what I've already got. Not that mine's an amazing collection by any means, but I may do a collection where I show off what I've got, but I might not bother because that's a bit, in the world of stamp collecting, that is seen as a bit crass. You can get away with it for games and coins and things and other stuff I collect, but in stamps it seems a bit crass to show off your collection. So I might not do that, or I might just to annoy other people in the hobby because I quite like doing that as well. So anyway, aside from that, I thought where I'd start is I would give just a couple of tips on how to do it. Now, I don't really have any amazing tips for collecting presentation packs because when they're obviously a fixed price and pretty much the price is set on presentation packs by dealers and eBay and things like that. Stanley Gibbons do set a price for presentation packs, but as usual with Stanley Gibbons, which is, if you don't know and you're new to the world of stamp collecting, Stanley Gibbons is basically a shop in the Strand in London. And what they do is they have a market price for every stamp. Mostly every stamp in the world, but where they are recognised as the genuine authority is on British stamps. Now, their prices are set by what they will sell it to you for. So what their retail price is for that particular stamp in any given condition. What this invariably means is that for most items, they are well over the odds of what you will actually find it for if you go to a normal dealer or you're buying them on eBay or something like that. I mean, the Stanley Gibbons price can quite often be double or triple the price of what the stamp actually goes for between collectors. And with presentation packs, this is obvious. I mean, like I can go on eBay and I can buy the entirety of, say, 1982's presentation packs for about £10-15 and that will be sent to me. If I was to go to Stanley Gibbons the shop and buy them all separately, you're probably talking 40 quid. That's how overinflated these prices are. And to be fair, they do the same with single stamps, but not always as much so. And I just thought, yeah, so I can't really give you any tips for presentation packs because Some are just cheap and some aren't. And quite often, even if you go to a stamp shop, they might not even have any presentation packs, because quite often, because they can't sell them at the prices they want to, they often use them as postage to sell other stamps with. So, I mean, the shop that's local to me, there's one. Actually, I'm not going to say where it is, because I don't want to do anyone down while doing any of these videos. But there is one local to me, and last time I went in there, he literally didn't have any presentation packs at all. And this is what he said to me. He said it's honestly not worth him keeping them, because they go for less quite often, especially the ones from the 80s and things like that. They will quite often sell for less. The market price he gets for them is less than, you know, him buying loads of postage stamps, because he can actually you can still use them as postage. So it's actually more worthwhile for him using them as postage and getting rid of them than keeping them in stock for 5-10 years than waiting for somebody to come in and buy them. So I can sort of understand it in a way. But anyway, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to give a couple of tips on how I managed to get how I managed to fill the other stamps that I got. So this is going from sort of 1840, which isn't true actually, because the oldest stamp I've got is from 1841. So this is going from the 1840s to about 19. Well, actually, well into the 90s, because lots of stuff that came out in the 90s and even in the 2000s, I think, didn't have presentation packs. So I'm just going to share a few tips on how I managed to do this and get the single stamps. Now, what I basically do when I go to buy stamps, and this goes for online as well, because there are so many, even just British stamps, there are so many, it's difficult remembering what you've got and what you haven't. So I go armed with this. This is I have all sheets here that I've printed off myself, and I do need to update this because the last time I did it was in 2015. And basically, I've ticked off. If you look there, I've ticked off the stuff I've got and the stuff I haven't. And this is the presentation packs one. This is the. And even then, even though I only did this 2 years ago, there's still stuff that should be on it that isn't. So I've had to write some in there, and things like that. And on the back, I've got specific ones that I was looking for that weren't official presentation packs. I've actually got these now, so I should have ticked them off, but I haven't. But the other sheets I go around with is these ones, and this is sort of so I know what I've got and what I haven't. And generally, what I do, actually, this is a good example here. So I have all the stamps that I'm looking for, and if I've got an example of the stamp, I just put a little line through it there. Do you see? Hang on. Yeah. The red one here, I just put a little line on the corner so that I know that I've got one example of that stamp. If it's got an M on it, then that's a mint condition. Well, it depends on what you... This is another thing that's a problem, is I term mint condition as the face is mint condition. Some people term it as it's still got the gum on the back as well. I think that, for me, the face of the stamp is good enough. I don't need one that's still got the gum. I don't need one that's unused. I don't mind if it's used, as long as the face is in mint condition. That's generally what I go for, especially with Victorian and Edwardian stamps, because you'll very often not find them in absolute, usable condition. But quite often you can find them with no markings on the face. So when I go to find stamps, I'm out armed with these in a bag, and I go around and I know what I need, I know what I want, and I cross them off as I buy them, as I find them. But actually, I hit upon, this was a couple of years ago, I hit upon a brilliant way of managing to get around some of the problems with stamp collecting, and that is stock books. Now, this is probably the only major tip that I'm going to have in this video, and I'm going to get to what I've done in a minute when I find the right page. Yeah, I'll leave it on that one because that illustrates what I'm doing. And it's stock books. Now, from time to time, and this is mostly off eBay. I'll tell you now, this is not from stamp dealers and doing swaps with anyone or anything like this. This is mostly on eBay. And what I've been doing, in order to fill up some of these older stamps, is I've been buying stock books on eBay. Now, these might come up because, you know, maybe unfortunately somebody's relative has died and they don't know what to do with all this stuff that they've got, and they've just put it on eBay as is. And a lot of these will be sold as is. And they are just full of stuff. And like I say, I'll give you two examples. Now, these are probably the best examples of stock books I've bought off eBay. This is probably the one that was in the best condition. This is one that's not in great condition, but it'll do. Now, most of the ones I've bought were falling apart, so they've gone in the bin. Once they start to fall to bits, they're pretty much useful for nothing. But what happens is these stock books are just full of stamps. Now, most of them weren't, like, so say for argument's sake, I paid 10, 15, maybe 20 quid for a stock book, and it might have a few hundred stamps in it. At the most, it's going to have maybe 300 stamps in it, usually. Now, I might only need 2 of those stamps, and it is a bit of a gamble. But what you can then do is resell the ones you don't need. Now, this isn't always easy, because quite often they will have, markings on them. Not all of them will be worth selling. Some of them are worth pence. Although, if you can get a whole set together and sell them as a group, then you can obviously get vastly more for them. So this is. I'm just going to show you these now. This is a stock book. No, it didn't come like this to me. This is what I've done since. And all of these, so that's, what are we there? Georgia Fifth? No, not Georgia Fifth. Georgia Sixth. And all of these have come out of stock books. So there's just tons of them. All of these have come out of stock books. And there's Victorian ones there as well. There's Edwards. There's George V's. There's Edward VIII as well. Some Edward VIII's there. Now, all of these, at some point, when I get round to it, can be put in sets and then just sold as a used set. Which, I mean, the reason why I've got so many of these left is because I don't have any of the purple ones to make a full set of the originals. But there's just so much stuff you can get, and this is all stuff that can be sold as used. I'll just show another lot of the pages. See, look, we're going into the the Wilding stamps here, and some Machin definitives, and the larger stamps for sort of parcels and things, and there's even some to pay stamps here that have all come out of stock books, and there's just loads of them. There's not a huge amount of commemoratives. I've got some Isle of Man ones here. No, I don't collect the Isle of Man, but somebody will, and at some point these are all going to be passed on, because look, here's ones I got from a German stock book, some pre-war and during the war occupations, some Hitlers, well, it's mostly just occupations and Hitlers, because that tends to be what people don't want in German stock books these days. And yeah, I've got some American ones here that were in the back of stock books, and just bits and pieces that you just don't normally find. Look, a whole load of are they Victorians or Edwards? There's some Victoria ones, some Edward ones, all in varying degrees of use. But the point is, see, this is a stock book I keep with the sort of the used stuff in it. This is the stuff where the faces aren't mint. So that's all in this book. But I have this other one here, and this is all stuff that, oh, hang on, there's other stuff in here. There's stuff in here that's ready actually just to go on eBay and get sold, but I haven't got round to doing it yet. So like this is the mint face stuff that I've got here. There's in fact, no, there's still not enough for a full set there. But this is all stuff that people want. I'm probably not showing this off very well because it's quite a big book when you open it out. And oh look, there's some more German stuff. In fact, this is a good one here because this is actually this is a German army stamp. Now this was only issued to soldiers, I think, so they could send letters home. Yeah, Feldpost, Deutsche Feldpost. So this was issued during the Second World War, to soldiers, so they could send stuff home to their relatives. And there's some more Hitlers. There's some more some. Well, they're all Reich stamps, really. Some occupation stamps. But yeah, this is all stuff, and there's blocks of 6 here and things like that, and this is all stuff that's come out of stock books. See, this is another one. I could put all of these ones into a full set here because I think that's almost. No, there's one missing. I've got one missing before I can do a full set of the cartoon stamps. That I could then sell on as a full set, and somebody would love that, even if you only pay £1 for it. There's just hang on, there's some more stuff in it. See, look, here's already another set of 2 that are a set that will go on eBay at some point when I get round to it. What's this one? This is another set of occupation stamps that I think is a full. In fact, I've just put 1943 occupation second set, but I haven't put what country it is, and it's very small. I'd need a magnifying glass to read that. But that's a full set there, and that can go on eBay and get me a couple of pounds for that. But anyway, I think I'm rambling a bit. But the point is, using this method, not only have I managed to complete most of the George VI, in fact, it's so complete that the only one I'm missing from the entirety of George VI is the hard to find dark blue 10-shilling stamp, which I do have an example of that. If you see there, I've put a line through, so I do have one. I just don't have it as a mint face. And the reason for that is because you probably won't ever find that in a stock book, because people know that one is reasonably. In fact, that's probably one of the most expensive George VI stamps, I do believe. But the point is, I managed to complete, barring this one stamp, and I think I needed to separately buy a mint example of the pound one. But I managed to complete it without even really breaking a sweat. Now, I know, as I've bought these stock books, so what I do is I buy the stock book, I take out what I need, and then I sell on as much to justify the cost of the stock book. So I know that, say I bought this for 15 quid, I know that the stamps that were in this book originally, I have sold at least 15 quid's worth of them. And I know that because I've stopped selling from it. So it took me a few weeks, and it's probably taken me about 18 months, to be honest. But I could sell all the stamps in here now, tomorrow, and that would be my profit. But I've broken even with every single one of these, and even when breaking even on the money I've spent, I've managed to fill in the holes in my collection. So that is basically my tip, and that was me sort of justifying my tip. And in fact, using the same method, apart from a few that I did have to buy separately, the only Queen Elizabeth II stamps I'm missing are the Waterloo castles. And again, although I did actually have two of these turn up in stock books. They're not mint examples. They have been used because obviously people in 1955, when they spent 5 shillings on a stamp, they were intent on using it. So they are difficult. The Waterloo ones especially are very difficult to get hold of mint examples. So that might be a set that I will just never have because of that. But the point is, these books have broken even on what I spent for them. I've sold on quite a lot of the stamps. I've traded quite a few of them, to be fair, as well. And that would be my tip, basically. If you're collecting like I'm collecting, and especially when it comes to George VI and Elizabeth II, and in some cases even some George V, I've had quite a few. Quite a few of my Victorian stamps have come from stock books, especially the Jubilee ones. So I think I've got so the Jubilee ones. There's 14 in total, and I've managed to cross off 12 of them. Now, I know I haven't bought any on eBay. I certainly haven't bought any from dealers, and I know I haven't swapped any from collectors. So that has all come from stock books. All right, not mint examples. 2 of them are mint examples, but they have come from stock books. Every single one. In fact, pretty much all of my Victorians have come from stock books. So that is pretty much what I wanted to say in this video, is that you can go on eBay and you can spend money on a reasonably good condition used Victorian stamp, or you could take a gamble and go on and spend a lot of money on it, obviously, or you could take a gamble and you could go on and just bid at random for a few stock books, and just see what you get, because you might spend the same money you were going to bid on for one stamp and end up with half a dozen or more that you can not only use for your collection, but the ones you don't use you can sell on. And I think it really is a good method of doing it. Now, like I say, it is a gamble. I'm sure that there was at least one stock book that I got that was in terrible condition. I think it had been in somebody's garage underwater or something, and a lot of the stamps did end up going in the bin. But even then, I still managed to. I didn't get anything out of it because it was the stuff. It turned out that there was very little. I may have got like 1 or 2 stamps out of it, but some of them went in the bin because they were just wrecked. There was some that had like corners cut off them and things like that, and it's like, well, nobody wants that. And it was a struggle to break even, but I did, because there were 1 or 2 in there that were still okay. I sold on. So yeah, there's just. I think it's a really good method. Obviously, by the time you get towards the end, or by the time you get towards just filling in the gaps, you're going to have to go for specific stuff. But if you're starting a collection of the older stamps, then I think you can do far worse than going and doing that. And yeah, so I just thought I'd bring this to show you just exactly what I mean. See, I've got... Oh, this is going to become very difficult because this is quite heavy. See, now, I'm not doing particularly well on the beginning of Victoria's reign. So, like, there's lots of empties here. So I've grouped them all into sets. But as we start to get towards the end, see, look, there's the Jubilee sets. Now, these are the best examples of ones I've got. So they're not all amazing. But that one there and that one there are obviously in reasonable mint, well, almost face mint condition. This is me, King Edward's. There's some Georges there. Look, you've got the whole set of Georges. Got the red and greens, the two different versions. Show you the Edwards there. Can't think what set's missing from there, but there's both of the great exhibition ones, 1924-25. There's the Upu ones. Obviously, I'm missing the big one. Likely, so is everyone that's got that set is missing the big one, because that one goes for hundreds and hundreds of pounds. What's that set? The photogravure set. There's the silver Jubilee set. There's Edward the Edward the Eighth. Wasn't king for very long, so therefore only has 4 stamps. There's George. There's the coronation stamp at the bottom. This is another interesting one, actually, because this doesn't need to be here, because there was actually a presentation pack for this, which I've got. So I might have to rearrange these folders again. So there's me. There's me, more the George ones. That's the one I was talking about. This is the rare one, the dark blue. Now, this looks like it's okay, but I can, maybe the camera won't pick it up, but I can see a flaw on here, which means that it's not okay. But this is just generally how I've grouped it, and then obviously I've pretty much got everything. Yeah, so there's Olympics, there's the dark, there's my Wilding set, the first set there, and this is what I'm on about. This is the Waterloo. Actually, no, that's not. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and in fact, I should have ticked these two off, because I do actually have them. I just, for some reason, haven't ticked them off. But as we go through it, I've got all the... So I've got the Island Definitives and... what's that? CEPT and all that. And then as we get to the end of this first folder, and what we got? National Productivity Year. And what's that? Parliamentary Conference stamps there. But yeah, most of these, apart from, actually, this is one I did have to buy separately, because this is another reasonably rare one. You can always find this one, the long stamp, but this one here is reasonably rare. But yeah, all of these, pretty much, the vast majority of them, especially these early ones, have all come out of stock books. Now, if I hadn't done this thing where I don't even know how I arrived at the idea. I think I just hit upon it one day and went, there's a lot of stock books on eBay that go for really, really cheap. I don't even remember why I was looking for stock books. And I just decided, do you know what? I'm going to take a punt on these things and just see what happens. And maybe I've been lucky, I don't know. But I think it's a brilliant way to try and get a reasonable collection of stuff going. And like I say, I've still got stuff in here that I could just throw on eBay tomorrow and just get rid of them. And, you know, all right, I might only make a tenner. I might make 20. There might be a stamp in there, or a set of stamps that somebody really, really, really wants. I could make 20 from a whole set, maybe more. But this is my point: is you don't know. And would I be able to do that, hunting down individual stamps at a stamp dealer's, No, obviously I wouldn't, because I would be going into the stamp dealers armed with my sheets and sort of going, I need that one and that one and that one. And then I've spent, I could walk out spending 50 quid and that's it. That's just 50 quid spent. Whereas potentially I could spend a tenner on a stock book. I'm not going to end up with that one, and that one, but I might end up with a different 3 or 4 or half a dozen stamps that I do need. I've only spent a tenner, and then I can make that tenner back again by selling the ones I don't need. And I think this is how to do it. Like I say, when you're getting towards the end of a collection and there is very specific stuff you need because you don't have it because nobody has it, the sort of rarer stuff, it's very unlikely that you're going to end up with like a VR penny black in a stock book. It's not going to happen. In fact, it's very unlikely to even find one online or in a stamp dealer's because they are super uber rare. But you never know. If you've got like if you buy a stock book that came from like somebody's 80-year-old granddad or something that maybe they do have it. You don't know, and this is where the gamble comes from. You could end up with a stock book. Oh, it's unlikely to happen because people know about penny blacks and things like that. And I dare say if somebody finds a stock book that's entirely full of different Victorian stamps, they'll probably take it to a proper valuer. But, like I say, it's not unusual to find maybe 20 or 30 different Victorian stamps or Edwardian stamps that you can just go, actually, yes, I do need about a dozen of these, and the ones that I don't need, I can, flog on. So that's basically it. That is basically what I had to get out there, that there is a way to get cheaper stamps, and it doesn't involve it doesn't have to be like these worldwide sets and things like that. I mean, yes, you can walk into WH Smith's and you can buy a bag of 500 stamps for like £8 or £9, but they're not going to be stamps that anyone really wants in their collection, and they're just not. They're designed for children who like pictures of birds and cats and things like that, and they're not really designed for people that actually want to collect stamps. But as near as you can get to that while actually getting stuff you want, I think I've hit upon the solution. So if you're into that, then do go on eBay. And now I am aware that next time I go to do this, I might not be able to because, maybe even 10 people have watched this video and decided, oh yeah, that's a brilliant idea, I'm going to do it. So I am aware that I'm essentially setting up my own competition for doing this. But I just think it's too much it's too good information to keep to myself. I think it really is something that's worked for me. Now, I may be wrong, and maybe when you go and do this, maybe all the stock books you buy will be full of rubbish. And that's upsetting because, like I say, it is a bit of a gamble. And but I do think that even if you have to spend, say, a week selling lots of common stamps for pence each, I reckon you'll probably still make your money back on a 20 quid stock book. Now, if somebody puts a photo on eBay that actually shows you what's in it, then obviously that's going to be bid up a lot higher. So I tend to stop at around the 20 quid mark. That's normally my limit for a stock book. I have seen some of them go for silly money because whoever it was that was selling it have put up photos of all the stamps that's in it, and they obviously do go for silly money because there's no risk involved. People know what they're buying and they know what they're worth. So obviously use a bit of nous and a bit of common sense, and bid on the sort of cheaper ones. But I think even makes it easier in a way to try and claw your money back somehow. But I feel like I'm banging on about the same thing again and again. So that's it. That's pretty much all I wanted to get out there. And it's worked well for me. I reckon it's saved me quite a few quid over the last couple of years. Which isn't anything. I mean, it's not saved me the kind of money. I mean, it was probably money that I could have had and I could have spent, but the money that I have made from these has sort of been ploughed back into the hobby, and I do like that, because that's the way I like to do it. And if it hasn't been ploughed into this hobby, it's been ploughed into something else, game collecting or something like that. So if I have a lot of money sat in the PayPal account, it doesn't sit there for very long. I'll tell you that. It goes on other stuff. But it's stuff that gives me tremendous enjoyment, so I don't care. So that's it. So if you've got any comments or questions, or even other suggestions, because I dare say that people will read the comments on something like this. So if you have a suggestion on how to do this, then do write something in the comments, because it won't just be me that sees it. It will be somebody that has clicked on this in order to get suggestions on how to help them complete their collection, because that's really what everyone's in it for, isn't it? Is to complete the collection. Nobody likes an unfinished collection. So if you do have tips, bearing in mind it's not just me that will see them, it's people that have watched this specifically in order to get tips. So your stuff will be there too, and you can feel proud that you've helped somebody. If you think I've got something wrong, then by equal measure put that there, because all the other people that see this will know that that's wrong, and you'll be helping somebody out. So the usual stuff, if you like this and, it gets the views that I hope it deserves, then I will obviously do more stuff on stamp collecting. But the topic I chose was very specific to draw people in. There's no question of that. It's not a clickbait video, but it may as well be, because it is very specific to draw people in, and that was done deliberately so that I do have an excuse to put more content out on stamp collecting, purely because I'm assuming that this video on its own will generate more traffic. So what I've done here is that hopefully I've been cleverer than I usually am, and actually done a video that people will watch that will then justify me doing more videos. So I may have just, in my supposed cleverness, I may have just created lots of work for myself. So it might be difficult trying to find where to go after this. So anyway, if you think that it's a good thing that if you think it's a good thing and you want to see more stuff, then, like, subscribe, things like that and the other. No, not everything I put up is about stamps. If this is your first time at my channel, I have got other stuff as well. So it's stamps, coins, games, things like that. And the game stuff does generate sort of views here and there. So that's generally what I focus on. But stamps and coins is stuff I do as well. So I'm just throwing it all out there to see what sticks. And yeah, so I am on Twitter as well. You'll see this little bar going down underneath me. That's the Twitter. So if you do have anything that you want to specifically tailor towards that, then that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'd usually rather that people comment on the videos, because then other people get to see them as well, because not everyone necessarily follows me on Twitter, but they do watch my stuff. So yeah, but if you want to, then that's an option there as well. And also, the good thing about Twitter is that if you put a comment on Twitter, it's not just YouTube people that see it. You can actually link to it and tell all your other Twitter friends that I've just put this comment here. So that's why that's good. So that's about it. And hopefully I'll be doing more of these. But it very much does depend on the sort of views this video gets. If it gets none in the next 3 months, then obviously I won't bother, because there'll be no point, because nobody will be watching it. So there's very little point in doing it. But if I do, then rest assured there will be more stuff. Yeah. and that's all I can say. So hopefully I'll see you in the next stamp video. If you like any of the other stuff I do, then go and watch that, because that's hopefully I've added some value to that sort of content as well. And again, feedback is always more than welcome. And that's it.